So you helped us broker a deal on literally like one of the biggest legacy pieces of our life.
Yeah.
And the story behind that, like I don't got to get into the details of it, but
Mhm.
that was a booger of a situation where you had all these moving parts
Yeah.
and you've got client duties to the people and you've got a multitude of different buyer options
Mhm.
and the stress that comes with it. And you were superb in that, like just the
Oh,
ability to
thank
kind
you.
of float between the two because like the perspective of what we were trying to accomplish with that property
Mhm.
is completely different than probably 99.9% of people who looked at that property because
Mhm.
where it is and what it is and like what it could become versus
That's right.
where it is, what it is, and what we want it to stay.
Mhm.
And that was probably the least stressful transaction that I've ever been a part of because it just the pieces fit.
Yeah.
And it was a great part because like a lot of times you get in a situation where you're working with a realtor. A realtor has one job, right?
Mhm.
To protect the
Client.
seller
Yeah.
and make the best possible outcome for them and balance that. But you had this like really personal connection there to where this doesn't happen often,
Mhm.
where both sides of that table kind of met, not in person, but like on a plane where this is kind of what they want. This is kind of where we are, and the way that that thing just became reality, it's kind of surreal. Like I
Mhm.
still, now I wake up every day, and that's a part of my life, and
Yeah.
it's a big thing that I'm having to adjust my entire life around to make it
Yeah.
work. But like I just remember being in that thing and like going through that, and I immediately was like, hey, you've got to come hang out on the podcast and talk about this because you have that
Mhm.
piece of the relationship side down
Mm.
and
Well,
that is
thank you.
so missed in the industry. And I tell people every time, like, one of the biggest core values in our company is around legacy.
Mhm.
Um, you know, like even in the new core values, the way we put it in there is like we are driven by legacy in Barndo Company, right?
Mhm.
And so what does that mean? And I've referenced this a billion times, and I got to give credit to Hunter Ballou, good friend of mine, also big in this entrepreneur world, and
Mhm.
got accomplished guy. Like he does a lot of stuff. He's in coaching, and he's got several companies, and he's a published author, and you know. But he said something one of the first times I ever met him about legacy, and he's like, "No, everyone's got an expiration date. No one's going to remember what you said or what you did. They're going to remember how you made them feel."
So true.
And to find people who live and operate with integrity, but also with that perspective of how does this feel, right?
Mhm.
Like it's rare. It's a rare
Mhm.
occurrence. And I told my wife that I was like, it too many things went right in
Mhm.
that transaction to where I was like, this is a bigger play than like just a transaction. Like
Yeah,
it
sometimes you wonder if God's moving
there's no
everything around, you
wonder
know
on
what I
my
mean?
side.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it was conducted and
Yeah.
illustrated by God for that moment.
Right.
But it was so rewarding because it's like if you find someone who can operate with that in mind,
Yeah.
right? How do we feel about this? Like money's
Mhm.
money, that's great,
Yeah.
right? There's going to be an exchange of value, but at the end of the day, how do we feel about the overall transaction? You could have found more money or less money and not had a great feeling, right?
Mhm.
And some people will never even entertain that side of it.
Yeah.
And so like it's been really fun moving into that and taking over that property and the former owners and how all this thing's pieced together and we're just like buddies now and like doing this thing together because it's a big
Yeah.
transition for them, is a big transition for my family, and like the way it all met at the table is because everybody was focused more on the legacy side of it of like
That's so true.
how do we feel about this? It's different, it's hard, we're solving a puzzle that is not common,
Mhm.
and a lot of people just wouldn't have took the time to make it happen.
Well, that's what I was thinking is that both sides were wanting to make it work.
Yeah.
And we had good people on both sides of the transaction, so everybody had a vision. Like you said, we worked to kind of make it come together.
Yeah.
And that is a challenge. And I was so grateful, that you were great to work with. My clients were great to work. Everybody tried to understand the other's point of view,
Yeah.
and the other's ultimate goal to make it work.
Yeah. So I give you a ton of props for that because that was that piece that's hard to balance. And I have perspective of it of like, okay, if I was in that seat, how would I be navigating this thing? You know, and like to find someone who has a commonality on a core value level of that, like, was refreshing. Because I told my wife, I was like, all it took is someone else that was more concerned about the outcome than the process, and that would have never happened. There would have never been an opportunity to circle back and have all these different discussions and see that thing, you know, move and morph and shape and create something where both sides won and everybody went away happy. And like everybody will remember that as like, hey, that was a great experience.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of have to give some of that credit to my dad, you know, because I think a lot of obviously we get a lot of our personality from our mom and dad, right? But my dad has always been kind of a diplomat in the family. Like he's just able to work conflict out. And, I don't know, maybe there was some of that, you know, at work too, but just, you know, trying to, and there was never really a conflict. It was just really a matter of getting from the starting line to the finish line to where everybody was happy. You can get some deals where they just butt heads and you just can't do it. Yep. But I think we just had the benefit and the blessing of great people on both sides that made this work too.